Alright, let us begin. Now, I'd like to welcome you all to the presentation for today. And today's topic is the states of consciousness. So, today we're going to be looking at different states of being that all of us share, different states of being that the human being is able or capable of tapping into at different times. So the point or the aims of this lecture or this presentation are the following. The first aim is to equip listeners with the knowledge of how to shift into different states by will. The second aim is to raise mass collective awareness. The third aim is to teach the listeners on the methods of how to engage and focus attention. So, in synthesis, the whole point of this lecture is to teach listeners how to tap into different states of consciousness by will, to tap into different states deliberately, willingly, voluntarily, in case individuals find themselves in difficult situations at different times. This power becomes very essential. And the good news is that it is an inborn ability of every human being. Every human being has the capacity to train themselves to tap into different states of consciousness depending on what it is that they are looking for, or what it is that they want to know about a particular situation. So this knowledge is meant to teach. Remember the trivium process that we've always been talking about on this channel. The first step is always knowledge. And that's where I come in as a personality that is given freely, no charge, this knowledge to the individuals who are interested in it. So let us begin. States of consciousness. Now, when we talk about awareness, this is, I believe, the first thing that we should have learned as babies, as children. But unfortunately, because of unconscious parenting, or those who are lucky who might have had conscious parents, would have taught them this stuff. But for those who did not manage to get that, I am here to equip you with that knowledge. So, part one, awareness and attention. Let us talk about awareness and attention. The first thing we should have learned as children is that our existence in this material and spiritual domain is made up of two fundamental aspects. Number one, awareness. Number two, attention. Now, what is awareness? I'm going to use an analogy so that we understand it better. Think of a torch. The torch has what we call a spotlight. When you are holding a torch and you move it around, the light is moving through what we call general awareness. It is awareness which is present. It is general. Wherever you find yourself, there is general awareness. Maybe you're in a room, there are chairs, there are tables, there's a roof, there are walls, and all that kind of stuff. Objects. But these objects, regardless of the fact that they might seem separate, they are not separate when it comes to awareness. It's all one awareness. Hence, if you open your eyes, you can choose to focus on a particular spot. So, for example, if you draw a dot on the wall, you can choose to focus on that dot on the wall. And your awareness, your attention is focusing on that dot. But what happened to the wall? The wall is still there. That's awareness. It's general. It's always present. And we call this floodlight. So awareness is the floodlight, and attention, which is focused, is the spotlight. Each and every human being is made up of these two fundamental metaphysical aspects. Floodlight, that's general awareness, and the spotlight, the focused attention. Now, if we had learned this as children, we would not have so many problems. We would not have emotional or even basic thoughtful problems, because we would know that our attention can shift by will. You can choose to focus on something or not to focus on something. But that choice is made possible by the fact that we have general awareness. So many things to focus on. So we can choose what we want to spend our energy and time on. This is a human right. This is something that is so basic, and yet it is easy to forget. Think back in a time when you got so engrossed in an argument, so absorbed in thinking about a situation or a person that they just took all of your energy. Well, that happens because you forget general awareness. Once a person forgets general awareness, they are in what we call tunnel vision. The attention has been trapped. It is very possible to trap attention. Um, I like to call it a perceptual prison or prison of perception. But it's only possible to be trapped in perception if you forget general awareness. And the good thing about general awareness, it never disappears. It's always there. It's only a matter of remembering that, oh, wait, this general awareness, I could easily just focus on something else. And you shift into a different state of consciousness. So these two are very important, awareness and attention, the spotlight and the floodlight. For intellectuals, for those who are students studying whatever you will be studying, you need to train the spotlight. You need to train attention. You need to train oneself to pay attention for a very long time, because in contemporary modern society, we have what we call attention deficit disorders. That is, we can't hold our attention for even 2 hours on one subject. And yet, it is very easy to do when one is trained to pay attention. So before I go to the next part, I just want to say something about awareness and attention. What happens when you focus attention on general awareness? It's like asking what happens when you take a torch and make it look back in on itself. It seems metaphysically impossible when we are using the example of a torch, but with a human being, it is very possible. It is literally paying attention to the present moment as it is. Willingly, consciously doing that. Now, when you do that, something happens. We're going to discuss it in part 3. For now, let us talk about basic notations of spotlight and floodlight. So the spotlight's attention is willful focus, thoughtful focus. It is basically similar to concentration. Now, what are the uses of spotlight attention? It can be used for real-time learning. That is learning in real time, in the present moment. If you want to learn something new, you need to engage spotlight attention, whether you're listening, watching, or basically just doing both, listening and watching. Number 2, it is also used for inductive reasoning. That is, if you want to learn something new, you can use deductive reasoning or inductive. With inductive reasoning, you're basically gaining conclusions or theories from what you observe. But you can't observe if you don't pay attention. So spotlight attention can be used for inductive reasoning. I'll give an example. Isaac Newton saw an apple falling from the tree. And he concluded that, well, you know what? If 10 more apples were to fall, there is a high probability that all those 10 apples will still fall down to the ground. They won't float in the air. Thereby, he came up with the theory of gravity, that things basically seek to fall to the ground when they are not suspended in the air. So this is inductive reasoning. And this was possible because of spotlight attention. So we can use our spotlight attention to learn things which have not been discovered. That's why it's important. Number 3, problem solving. Spotlight attention can be used to problem solve. If you, for example, maybe your chair breaks, you want to fix it, you need your spotlight attention concentrated on fixing that chair. That's problem solving. And the last one is tunnel vision. Spotlight attention can be used for tunnel vision. If an individual wants to gain a skill, super learning, you need to engage spotlight attention, concentration for a long time until you learn the skill. So that's spotlight attention. Next up, floodlight or general awareness. This can be used for meditation. That is, you're not focusing on a particular thing, but you're just focusing on the general awareness itself. This is meditation. You're not focusing on a thought, you're not focusing on an object, you're not chasing an emotion. You're not chasing anything, but you're just present with general awareness in silence. It can be used for meditation. Number 2, general awareness can be used for detachment. In other words, if an individual finds him or herself being bugged by a particular desire, particular craving, particular emotional egoic sense of self, this is an ego that is trying to grab attention, that is trying to grab your attention to do something. When you engage with general awareness, what happens is you detach. So it's like you're pulling attention out. Because remember, attention is energy. It is the most powerful energy. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look around the city. Just look around your home. Everyone is glued to their phones. Why? Because AI even knows that without attention, AI doesn't exist. Without attention, whatever's on the screen does not exist. Without attention, this lecture would not exist. So, what happens when you pull out attention? You detach from whatever is absorbing your attention. And once you detach, you keep your energy, you keep your awareness. And that awareness, since it's energy, it can nourish you, it can heal you, it can make you better spiritually, mentally, physically, and even in your emotions. So, detachment, general awareness. Next up, it also dissolves disruptive emotions and thinking. So, let's say an individual is worried about a particular thing. Maybe you're worried about tomorrow. What's going to happen tomorrow? How am I going to solve my problems tomorrow? This is a thought. You mix the thought with emotions, then you have something else. It becomes a serious problem. But what are the thoughts and emotions using to sustain themselves? Attention, using your attention. So remembering that, wait, I could just pause, take a look at it. Exactly. Pull your attention out. And what happens? You are left with general awareness. You basically have dissolved emotions and thinking. And when tomorrow comes, you're still in the present moment. You still have your attention and awareness, and you can deal with the problem in a practical, realistic manner. Relaxation. Floodlight awareness is so important for relaxation. For example, if you go to the park and you basically listening to the birds, you're in nature, you're not focusing on anything particular, you're just there. That is general floodlight awareness. You tap into that and you relax. Very relaxed, focusing on nothing. You are aware of your body, you're aware of your thoughts and your emotions and your environment. All of them are one awareness. So that will help you relax. because you're no longer in what is known in, I believe it's Buddhism, they call it Sakaya Drishti, which means separate consciousness, the view of being a separate ego in a body, or being a separate soul trapped in a body. So, when you tap into general awareness, you do the opposite now. You're now in an opposite state of consciousness, which is unitary, oneness. Everything becomes one awareness, no separation. So this helps you to relax. Lastly, floodlight consciousness helps you to get in touch with the creator. The term I like to use for the creator is Brahman, which is a Hindu term. You can use whatever word you want. The words don't change the reality. But in other words, floodlight awareness helps you to tap into the creator. The creator vibration is everywhere. So in other words, if you are in a state of general awareness and not focusing on anything, but focusing on that awareness itself, it is the same everywhere. Each individual in different locations, each organism, each plant, each object, anywhere is in that state. The only difference with human beings is that we can knowingly get into that state. So we can not only be happy, but we can know we're happy. So with general awareness, we can tap into this creator vibration where everything is pure consciousness. No desire, no particular goal, no past, no future, no time, just general awareness. This is the state of Brahman, which is why people say God is everywhere. It's true. That awareness is everywhere. It pervades everything. But the problem with contemporary society is we sometimes forget. We forget because we don't know how to tap into it. We want to theorize about it, which is not it. I always give the example of, if you call a tree, it does not change what that thing is. It could care less what you call it. It is what it is. So it could care less what we call it, in other words. So tapping into the creative vibration, we need general awareness. And lastly, floodlight consciousness can be used for rejuvenation. That is to revitalize the body, the mind, the soul, and the spirit. Because all of these things are sustained by energy. And energy and consciousness are two sides of the same coin. Consciousness is energy, and energy is consciousness, attention, awareness, basic awareness, life. Now let's move on to part number 2. We are going to talk about the 4 general states of consciousness. In other words, the 4 states of being. Each human being can be found in one of these 4 states at a different time. Some people are born and die in one state of consciousness because they've not been taught or trained how to shift by will into different states. Sometimes they shift because of trauma. Sometimes they shift because of recreational substances. Sometimes they shift because of anger, or basically someone, or they fall in love. Many things can put you in a different state of being. So, what are these 4 states of being that human beings can find themselves in? State number 1 in Greek is known as Acasia. Acasia. Now, Acasia is the lowest state of consciousness. Acasia, I'll repeat, is the lowest state of consciousness. And it is characterized by ignorance, cruelty, and barbarism. It is an exceedingly profound sleep. I am quoting The Perfect Matrimony by Samael Aounville. He's the author of the book, and he talked about these states in detail. So Acasia is instinctive. It is an infrahuman state in which the consciousness is basically sleeping. So if we look back in time, we see tribes in the past which were barbaric. They would kill people. They would burn people on the stake. They would do all sorts of human cruelty. This is a state of sleep, a state of Acasia, because were they to all of a sudden wake up in the state of general awareness, which we'll talk about specifically what it's called, they would realize that it's just one awareness. There's no need to kill another human being because they have different beliefs. But they were in a state of Acasia. So they were cruel, they were ignorant, they were brutally barbaric. This is the state of Acasia. Many things can bring about this state. One of the things that can do this is trapping attention in concepts, trapping attention in false dogmas, so that the individual is no longer seeing what is there, what is right there, truth, but they're seeing through a veil, a glass, a sort of mirage, an illusion. And you can have many people in this state, existing in this state. In modern day psychological terms, it is the state of deep hypnosis. It is a state of hypnotic suggestions, where the individual only sees the projections of their own mind. Even lower than that, they might not even see the projections of their mind, but they become the projection of the mind, driven by projections. So not actually seeing the projection, but becoming the projection, which can lead people to kill other people. When an individual assumes that his wife is cheating on him just because he had a thought or a feeling, this is hypnosis, because it could have just been a hypnotic suggestion sent by something so random and impersonal, and the individual attaches himself to it and believes it to be true. This is a state of sleep, Acasia. State number 2 in Greek is known as Pistis. It's a Greek term which means power. In the state of Pistis, the world of opinions and beliefs rule. Pistis is belief, prejudices, and fanaticism. It is a state of theories in which there does not exist any type of direct perception of the truth. So Pistis is that consciousness of the common level of humanity. Samael Aounville, Perfect Matrimony. So that's a quote from that book. So in the state of Pistis, it is a state in which theories are what are seen, basically. In other words, I'll give an example to make it easier. If one believes that the earth is a sphere, if one believes that the earth is space, these are beliefs, but they cannot be based in direct perception. In other words, it's a theory. Anybody can have a theory on anything. And that theory can spread. You can start a group, you can start a religion, you can start a sectarian, you can start an occult, or a cult, basically. This is a state of Pistis, and this is the common level of humanity. Most people are in a state of Pistis because we believe things which we have not verified. So by believing in something, we are in a state of Pistis. It is a state of power because beliefs have power. I don't have to convince you, look around. Beliefs have power because beliefs are images. They are images which human beings hold in their minds dearly. People kill for beliefs. Terrorism is done with the conviction of someone believing in something. So they go and they kill another group because they don't believe in what we believe, so we're going to kill them. Or he doesn't believe in what I believe, so we have to stop him or remove him completely. Pistis. It's a state of prejudice and belief. That is the second state of consciousness. Moving up the level, a higher state than the previous two is known as Dianoia in Greek. It can also be called Jagrata. Now, Dianoia is the intellectual revision of beliefs. It is analysis and conceptual synthesis. According to Samayo Aounvior in The Perfect Matrimony, he writes, it is cultural intellectual consciousness, scientific thought. Dianoia is thoughtful study of phenomena, and it establishes laws. And dianoetic thought studies the inductive and deductive systems, with the purpose of using them in a profound and clear way. So what is this state of Dianoia? What is this state of Dianoia or Jagrata? In the state of Dianoia, one does not believe anything. Now, it's very difficult for individuals in the state of Pistis to comprehend how one cannot believe anything. But instead of believing something, in the state of Jagrata, one is revising the beliefs. So, in other words, as Einstein says, you can't solve a problem with the same state of consciousness which created it. So the state of consciousness which creates beliefs, that's Pistis, can never solve the problems in Pistis because it's the same level. So in order to revise beliefs, we have to shift into a different state, and that's Dianoia. That's the state of people like Einstein, Isaac Newton, and many other brilliant minds of the past and the present. In this state, one is revising. So in this state, one has a consciousness which is awake, perceives what is there. So if there is a belief there, that belief is going to be unpacked, dissected, analyzed, intellectually revised until we get to the finest details. What is in this belief? Can we measure it? What's inside the belief? Is it a thought? Well, what's the thought? How can I measure a thought? Is it light? Is it energy? What's going on here? So it is a state in which questions are asked. Socrates was in a state of Dianoia. Socrates was a philosopher, and the Socratic method was basically questions. Questioning. And this questioning does not lead to an answer. The state of Dianoia is literally a state of questioning. So if you get an answer and then you believe the answer, you have stepped down into the state of Pistis. But if you question that answer again, you have stepped up into the state of Jagrata, Dianoia. So Dianoia is a very profound state of consciousness, and here is the thing that is most interesting about it. It cannot be achieved mechanically. In other words, it is not an automatic state. So for example, if you see someone today, they tell you their name, and you see them tomorrow, you assume that that person is so and so, their name, right? But that's a belief. How do you know? You could be wrong. What if they lie to you? This is Jagrata. Questioning. You don't believe everything, even the simplest of things. You know, like the sun is up there, it's in the morning, and well, now 8:10. It's probably the same time everywhere. That's a belief. That's Pistis. It's power. Yes, you can use it to make illusions, control people, manipulate people brilliantly. That's why it's the common state of humanity. But we want to raise collective consciousness. And in order to do that, we start by questioning. That is the state of Jagrata. And it's not mechanic. You cannot question if you're automatic. Because if you just believe that it's nighttime, or if you just believe that it's daytime, you're in Pistis. Question that. Find out. Are you really on planet Earth? Are you sure about that? So you don't have an answer, but you keep on questioning. Now, you might assume that this state is going to lead to madness. Or, if not madness, it's going to lead to a state of disequilibrium in the psychological individual. But let's look at some ancient examples of individuals in spirituality who managed to reach this state. The example I'm going to use is of an ancient Indian philosopher. His name was Nagarjuna. Now, Nagarjuna came up with a school of thoughts which was known as Majanika, and it was a very particular way of teaching which was very brilliant. He would teach his students many theories about spirituality, meditation, how to basically relax the mind, how to know things, and he would write many books, many theories, many papers. And after all that effort, he would go to his students and say, "It is time to burn everything." The students would be in shock, like, "Wait, why should we? We just spent 3 years studying these things and now you're saying we should burn them." And he would say, yes. He would take all the theories that he developed, every single thing that he said, and he would throw it into the fire. And the students would start to feel uneasy. Because was this just a waste of time? They'll say to him, "Master, what should we believe in? We need something to hold on to. We can't just be nothing." And then he would say to them, "Well, who are you? Who needs something to hold on to? Who is asking the question? Who wants an answer? Who are you?" And this state of consciousness, of questioning, is Jagrata. But the way he would do it, he would start with his students in a state of Pistis, in which he gives them so many beautiful things to believe in. And they would enjoy that. They would love the fact that they had something to believe in. And then he would obliterate everything that they believed in. Why? There's a reason for that. It's not just by accident. The reason is, when one shifts from Pistis to Dianoia, there's a profound realization that beliefs are actually holding on to something. It's not that you are holding on to beliefs, it's the opposite. The belief feeds off of you. The belief needs you to exist. The belief needs your energy and awareness and attention in order to sustain itself. So who's important here? The belief or you? Not you as a belief that I'm an ego. That's also a belief. In fact, we could go further than that and say that the belief that there is a you and an I is a belief. How can we prove that? Unless we question it and reach this state of awakened consciousness, Jagrata. And then we don't need to believe in a you or an I, because it's there. It's like you don't have to believe in existence. You exist. No need to believe that. You're there. That's it. So we start from here. Jagrata. Dianoia. Now, what happens when we sustain this state of awareness in our everyday lives? It's very hard to sustain, because we have what we call in psychology entrainment. This is what keeps people in Pistis. It's a psychological phenomena in which I'll give an example using music. If you play 5 strands on a guitar with the same frequency, and you play one of them with a different frequency, that is, one of them is off key, it's different, and you do this over and over again, what they realize in psychology, what they call entrainment, is that the strand which was off pace and doing its own thing, sounding its own frequency, will eventually match the other 5. It becomes like the other 5 strands. So its individuality and uniqueness vanishes. This is entrainment. This is how individuals are kept in a state of pistis. There are many ways this can be done. We'll talk about it in future lectures. It's social engineering, in which you get hundreds of thousands of people to believe a certain thing, whether it's true or false, depends. And if you have 10,000 people believing something different, what happens is with entrainment, those 10,000 will eventually be sucked into the 100,000. And they will start to believe what those 100,000 were believing. This is entrainment, and it works like magic. It works perfectly. Which is why I said the state of Dianoia is not automatic. No one reaches that state automatically. You must willfully tap into it in different situations. And my question previously was, what happens when you sustain it? What happens when you sustain the state of Jagrata? Let's find out. The fourth and last state in Greek is known as Nous. 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 This is the state of illuminated consciousness, light, complete objective truth. In this state, there is no subjectivity. In other words, in the state of Nous, one does not perceive from an ego. That is to say, one does not see from a sense of social identity, but one perceives objectively, where there is objective view of truth. So what they see is what is known in Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, as the absolute, or the void, or the emptiness. And that is to say, everything, thoughts, people, things, their inherent nature is emptiness. So there's nothing to hold on to in the state of Nous, because there is no self in that state. But what there is individuality. That is to say, there's an individual, but there is no particular points of self in the state of Nous. What there is truth, objective truth. So in that state, the consciousness of the individual is nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Metaphysically, it might sound confusing, but what I'm trying to say is that emptiness is everywhere. A planet, in its inherent nature, is emptiness. And if you scale it all the way down to the smallest atom, what's inside an atom? Space. It's all space. Void. So this void, this emptiness, is what is realized in the state of Nous. Unfortunately, the term emptiness in English is connotative of negativity. It has a negative connotation. People think when you say emptiness, oh, there's nothing there. It's empty. Don't worry about it. Oh, there is something there. Very much. It is the thing that gives rise to everything. So is that not the most important thing? The Ein Sof in Kabbalah, or the ayin, to be more specific, the nothingness, the void, the emptiness. This is what is realized in the state of Nous. Let me read a quote from Samael Aoun-Vior in his book Perfect Matrimony. He says, Nous is perfect awakened consciousness. Nous is the state of Turiya. So Turiya is another term for awakened consciousness or an awakened being. It is profound, perfect interior illumination. Nous is legitimate objective clairvoyance. So what this means when he says legitimate objective clairvoyance, he is saying that the individual is seeing the clear light, which is the void. So there's no subjectivity. You don't go to a person in Nous and ask them about your job or whether you're going to be rich in the future, or basic subjective questions like who was I in the past, or who am I going to be in the future. These questions are meaningless to a being in the state of Nous, because the questions themselves are void. Inherently, they are empty. Let's move on with the quotation. Nous is intuition. Nous is the world of the divine archetypes. Noetic thought is synthetic, clear, objective, illuminated. Whosoever reaches the heights of noetic thought totally awakens consciousness and becomes a Turiya. In other words, one becomes a being that is seeing the void, a Buddha. So the term Buddha, Budh, direct translation to English means awake. Someone who's awake does not dream. When I say awake, in this term, it does not mean having your eyes open. People have their eyes open every day, but they dream. They dream of the future. They reminisce about the past. They dream of a future age in which everything is going to be perfect and everyone is going to be happy. These are dreams. There is no proof for these dreams. There's no evidence for these dreams. That is why they are dreams. Nothing inherently wrong with dreams. It's good to dream. If you fall in love, you know how beautiful it is to dream. Amazing. But Nous does not dream. In fact, when we study spirituality, there is a particular atom in the human body known as the Nous atom. I'm not going to go into specifics, but this atom is also known as the master atom. And its basic job is to keep in touch with that clear light, that clear objective truth. Just in case the individual gets lost or gets deeply hypnotized in dreams, that master atom has to just be there, just in case. So at any moment, any individual on the planet can have that atom rise up into their brain and they would see the void. They would see the void in everything, especially themselves. Now there are two ways a person can react to this mystical experience. Two ways. One reaction could say, oh my God, what is this? Nothing is real. Nothing is here. But notice that this statement, this reaction, is an attempt of the ego to drop the consciousness back into Pistis, because when you say nothing is here, that's a belief. You say something is here, that too is a belief. So the ego will always try to drop individuals back into Pistis. Very hard to sustain the state of Nous. It is worth it as an experience, but to be in that state eternally would probably mean that everything vanishes. Like, it's literally the dissolving of your epistemological structure itself. So you can have many epistemological beliefs, but when the mechanics, the device which actually creates those beliefs is dissolved, it becomes something else. So this is the absolute Nous. Very, very high state of being. Very important for individuals who are spiritual aspirants, assiduous spiritual aspirants. People are very serious about this stuff. It's very important that at least once in your life you pass through that phase. Now, the funny thing is, it is possible that in near-death experiences, one can have perception of the state of Nous, which is why people who go through NDEs usually come back transformed, heavily transformed. It's because they perceive the void, they see the void, and it dramatically transforms them. Someone becomes totally different. Why? Well, once you realize everything is inherently empty, why would you still be mad at another person? Why would you still have hate? Why would you still worry? The only worry you'd still have is probably to tell others that it's all okay. It's all beautiful in the end. Perfect consciousness in the end. Regardless of that statement, that's a belief. It is a cycle. Because from Noose, one can go all the way back to Acasia, deep hypnosis. Why? Because the individual becomes fascinated with that state. And once one is fascinated with that state, they could come back and start a religion. The religion could have many different names, but it'll be pointing to that state of Nous, the void, which is totally fulfilled, totally happy. There's a state of bliss and perfection. So these are the 4 states of consciousness that we've discussed. I always try to make these lectures informal and also mixing them with a bit of formality so that the concepts and facts are on point for my fellow intellectual, spiritual, and fanatics to understand that this human machinery that we possess has so much potential to experience brilliance in the cosmos, to experience things and see things from different points of view. And every human being has a right to cling to what they want to cling to. At the same time, every human being has a right to dissolve and detach from whatever they want to detach from. This is only possible with the knowledge for the better of humanity and raising mass collective awareness. With that being said, we have come to the end of this presentation. Stay peaceful, stay blessed, and remember, stay mindful.